This weekend, Matt, we do have college football, and of course, you're going with these mid-majors. You're going with teams that we wouldn't normally be betting on. Then we'll dive in. And if you guys have any college football questions, you could write it in the chat. Matt will do his best to answer them. You could follow him on thepropqueen.com for the Mid-Major Matt College Sports newsletter, and he's going to break down all his different college football edges. He's got another newsletter going out tomorrow about the games. But a little preview here, Charlotte team total under 17.5. How come we're fading the offense?
So Charlotte's really bad. They're 1-6. There's not going to be much of a crowd tonight in Charlotte. And this team has only gone over this once against an FBS opponent. They scored 26 at South Florida. And, that was one of those games where South Florida gave up 16 of those in the fourth quarter when the game was already in doubt. So, they didn't really care. But Charlotte has so many injuries. They've got wide receiver injuries, quarterback injuries, running back injuries, offensive line injuries. Their offense is just brutal. North Texas isn't great defensively, but they have to get style points in order to help them out in the G5 playoff race. And so far, they held UTSA to 17 points so far. They held Washington State to 10. They're not as good on the road, but they've faced some better offenses on the road. I just think this game screams 55-10 tonight in the short week.
We had a question in the chat before we get to your next one. Boise asked, should I go with the SD State opponent team total under?
Ooh, so we're going FCS on this one. South Dakota State and I believe North Dakota State this weekend, which is a huge game in the FCS level because, let's be honest, the Dakotas run the FCS level. I haven't paid as much attention here, but if you look, North Dakota State has allowed 70 points in 7 games this season. South Dakota State has allowed 102. So usually this is a defensive game. It's in South Dakota State, so that's going to help out a little bit. But, the Bison are really good defensively this year. I don't know what the team total is. If it's somehow 17.5, I think that's I would take the under there. Make sure to try and get the key numbers because you want to make sure to get the best. Oh, he's talking about San Diego State. Okay. San Diego State and Fresno. That one makes a little more sense. I was rambling about the Dakotas battle. So here's the thing. San Diego State has a top 20 defense in the country. Really good defense. And so the fact that they're on the road scares me. And the fact that they're playing a team off their bye week always scares me because you can add wrinkles and you can change some things. But the only way to play San Diego State games are the team total unders. Their defense is just ridiculous. They brought back 8 or 9 starters from last year. And the only teams that have gone over, I think it's 22.5, 23.5. Colorado State scored 24 and Washington State scored 36. Everybody else has struggled to get there. So I would lean that way to the team total under, but make sure to get the key numbers.
How about Virginia on the road laying 10? That's the game against North Carolina, right?
Yes, it is. And go JMU, Lewis. Obviously, they looked really good. They're playing on Tuesday night. So that's looking forward to that down in San Marcos, Texas. I think this is UNC's last stand. For those who don't realize, now we all know UNC Duke is a huge rivalry in basketball. UNC and UVA in football is a humongous rivalry. I think it's the top 3 most played rivalry in college football. So this is my last stand here. This is the last time I would consider betting North Carolina. If they show up in this game, I think they can cover the 10. UVA's offense has been bad the last couple weeks. They've won games, which is good for them, but the offense hasn't shown up. The problem here is it's a noon game. And if Virginia's up 14-0 in the first quarter, everybody's going to leave. The students are going to leave. The fans are going to leave. It's going to be an empty stadium. UVA will win 45-10. But I think this is an opportunity for North Carolina to do the last stand thing where they go, they try their best, they beat up on a ranked opponent. So my lean is to North Carolina plus the points here, but be ready to take Virginia live if early on you see the Wahoos moving the ball up and down the field, because then it's just going to be a blowout.
You also have another play that you were mentioning. So you mentioned the Charlotte team total under. North Texas, we love this market. Over 5.5 touchdowns, minus 135. How come we're going to see a lot of offensive production out of them?
So North Texas has one of the best offenses in the country, and they came off of scoring 55 against UTSA. They scored 45 at Army. They've scored 59 against Washington State. They have a really good offense. And the only thing that worries me here is they're coming off of a short week when they played against UTSA. It's an in-state rival. It's my only worry. But Charlotte's defense is brutal. If you look at what the 49ers have done this season, they just gave up 49 at home to Temple. Temple's a good offense. They're not that good. They gave up 54 to South Florida. They gave up 35 to an FCS school, a really good offensive FCS school, but 35, that's a lot. So I think this Charlotte team that also has a lot of injuries on defense gives up a lot of points. There's a little bit of a cushion in the touchdowns market as opposed to the team totals market. It's a couple points difference. So I'm hoping that they score the 6 touchdowns here and get to 42 points. And that's why we're taking the touchdowns as opposed to the team total.
Sports Guru said Cal tonight, PQ.
I don't know why money's coming in on Virginia Tech. I have no idea. Virginia Tech is a team that has not shown much to us this season. The thing I like about Virginia Tech tonight is they're coming off a bye week. They played 7 games. They've got 5 left. Like, there's a clear definition as to the goals the rest of the season for the Hokies. I think Cal's the side here, but I don't know why the public is betting on Virginia Tech. This thing went from 5 to 6.5. So I maybe wait and maybe you get a 7 tonight. I don't think so. There's no injuries on either side that I think make a difference here, but like, I'm kind of scared to go up against the move because the public loves Virginia Tech so much. If this thing gets a 7, maybe I'm interested in Cal tonight.
Oh boy. Okay, so we've got some big games. I know that you are a mid-major, Matt, for a reason, but you also are very well versed in college football, and people love betting the big games. So speaking of the big games, we've got a few big ranked opponents going head to head. Which games will you be having your eye on?
So the spot of the weekend, and remember, I like to educate people. So for my my Saturday morning newsletter, it's all the spots, and it's basically like sandwiches, look aheads, hangover spots. The thing about the article is it's just to tell you what to look forward to, and it's not a guarantee. So we've given out spots before, and they haven't hit. You know, a team might be not focused, and then they eventually get focused and win the game. The spot of the weekend is SMU and Wake Forest. SMU coming off the road game at Clemson, a very nice win at Clemson. Granted, it was against their backup quarterback, but still very nice win in Death Valley. SMU comes home next week and hosts Miami for homecoming. Humongous game for the standings there, and an opportunity to deal Miami a blow for the ACC championship. Standing in their way is Wake Forest, and the Demon Deacons are coming off their bye week. SMU is dead last in passing defense. They allow the most yards per game through the air in the country. And my concern is Wake Forest's offense may not be able to necessarily take advantage of it, but a noon game for a school from Texas that has huge game next week, I would not be surprised if Wake Forest wins this game, which would then give us the over on 4.5 wins for Wake Forest for the season. We need just one more there. So that is the spot of the weekend, to say the least, is looking at Wake Forest against SMU. No guarantee it hits, but everything motivation-wise makes this a really tough game for SMU on Saturday.
I know you like your buy low, sell highs. You got everything in the newsletter. What can people look forward to in the newsletter tomorrow?
So tomorrow's just the spots, and we have a couple of them. There's a couple of sandwich spots, and there's a couple of look-ahead spots. Hangover spots. There was no actual look-ahead spots this week. I had a couple that were in the look-aheads, but then they turned into sandwiches because there was a game before. It's just a couple of spots to be aware of. Also, make sure to check out the weather. There are certain parts of the country that are going to have some rain, certain parts of the country that are going to have some wind, and make sure to check that out beforehand, because I think wind is a factor in a lot of games when you go against it, and that means you want to play more rushing type stuff as opposed to passing type stuff, but make sure to check that out. And look, the other thing is for college football, I think it gets a little quote unquote easier to handicap the sport in this respect. We are now 7-8 games in for some people. There's some people who already know they're not making a bowl game, they're not winning their conference championship, and they're going to give up. Like the bad teams in this country, this is about the time when they start showing a lack of effort. Players start wanting to transfer out of the program. So you're going to see when I post my plays on Saturday on my Twitter account, like you're going to see a lot of team totals against bad teams, because this is the time when the good teams rise up and they score a lot of points, and the bad teams just let a lot of points up because they're ready to go.
Uncle Ted made the point it's also conference games. How would you attack some of those?
Yeah, conference games, you want to look at the standings. This is where look-ahead spots come into play. Sometimes you might be playing a lesser team. Like, is Vanderbilt looking ahead to Texas next week, or are they fully focused on Missouri? Like, it's weird. Vanderbilt's never had this situation. They've been such a bad program for a long time. Like, this is a week where they could be coming off the win over LSU, and with Texas next week, like, are they fully focused for Missouri? College game days there. How do they handle that? We've seen some programs when they get college game day, they don't look as good game time. time. I mean, JMU has had College Game Day, I think, 3 times and is 1-2 in those games. Like, you have to be able to handle the extra pressure and all the attention. I don't know if Vanderbilt can handle that. So that's something that's really interesting. And then, of course, Joe pointed out on Twitter our trend that we talked about last week. Here's the thing. The Minnesota first quarter under hit last week. It's a bet that I'm always going to make. There are certain bets in all sports that I will make every single time, and I will adjust my unit size. And Minnesota's playing Iowa this week. Traditionally, that's a defensive game. It's a low-scoring game. It's for a pig, I think. They play for some rivalry in this game. I think it's called the Gavin of Rosedale. So this is an important game for both teams. The over-under is 7.5. Now, here's the interesting thing, and some of you are going to look at me weird. I paid a little bit more juice, a little bit more, to get the 9.5 on DraftKings. Now, here's the reason why. If, let's say, one of them scores a touchdown but misses the extra point and then they kick a field goal, I win under 9.5. Let's say somebody goes for 2 and it's 8 points, and you would lose the 7.5, but you wouldn't lose the 9.5. So I'm always looking to try and buy myself a little bit of protection within reason. It's so funny because the under 9.5 was like minus 135. I think I got it at. I posted it on my account. The minus 10.5 was minus 220, and I was not going to do that. I'm not that bad of a person when it comes to juice, but like, I'm always trying to buy myself a little bit of protection. So yes, we are on the under for the first quarter for the Minnesota game. It's one of the best trends the last 3 years in college football, but I bought it to 9.5 at like minus 135 instead of the 7.5, and just, hope that they don't, score more than a touchdown, a field goal.
Mid-Major Matt, make sure to give him a follow at Mid-Major Matt. Follow his newsletter at thepropqueen.com. You are always such a big help. Can't wait to see you Monday, and can't wait for you to host the Prop Queen pod when I'm gone in Aruba.
Yeah, next Friday on the best day of the year, Halloween. I heard how much you don't like Halloween, and we have to discuss that in the future, but not right now. But Halloween's the best day of the year.
We can discuss it next week.